Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Above the Bar podcast, where each week we belly up to the bar with a new guest, find out what they do, who they are, and what makes them great. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Alrighty, folks, welcome back to the Above the Bar podcast. It's your show, Sean. We are bellying up to the bar today with another Marine. I know this is what we do. We're finishing off our series this month. Has been all about networking, starting your own business, really, taking that leap of faith that most of us aren't willing to take and kind of doing your own thing and being your own boss. Probably my favorite saying when it comes to owning your own company or owning your own thing is once you become your own boss, you get to pick the 80 hours a week that you work. So I decided to pick, I guess he kind of knows something about running businesses. He's kind of like a serial entrepreneur. He's kind of like the second loudest person I know next to me. But I mean, and we've known each other. God, we met, let's see, I think our guest tonight and I met back in 2011. I want to say
correct.
It had to be, and I don't know if he remembers the story. I remember the story. I got sent over to his unit to tell them why they should be recruiting, and he pulled me off to the side and like, no, I got this. I look like a man. We'll do this. I got all this all worked out. They've all got mission letters, and I'm like, who the hell is this loud, fast talking guy that's like bulldogging me? You bulldog me, but that blossomed into an amazing relationship, friendship, and he has helped me in my career. I hope I've helped him in his, but no matter what, we have with us the CEO. I don't know if he's CEO. I bet his wife would probably say something different, but the CEO of Roman Empire Logistics, Vinny Roman. Oh, wait a second, wrong button.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad you can make it out, find some time for us tonight. Folks, I kid you not, when I talk to Vinny, he's normally going somewhere, running around with something. He's headed to New York City. He's back up in Albany. He's always somewhere. So, brother, I appreciate you, man.
No, thanks. I appreciate you. I'm excited.
So we're going to get into it today. We're going to be talking, what is a serial entrepreneur? What does that mean to be that person? It's an amazing what Vinny has been able to do. Before we get into that, though, as always, we got to do some house cleaning here. First thing is, always above my right shoulder, we have our board for sticker and a cause. If you're out there and you've got something you believe in, whether it be a small, and look, I don't believe in small businesses. If it pays your bills, that thing ain't small, and not in any way, shape, or form. That business is important. So if you got a sticker for your business, send it to me. I'll read about it on air. Free advertising for you. You got another podcast, send it to me. I'll read about it. You have anything out there, you send me a sticker, I'll read about it on air. So there's your opportunity with sticker and a cause. The next thing is if your media needs a little bit of an upgrade, you're looking at your post and you're saying, hey, why isn't nobody paying attention to what I'm putting online? Well, that's very simple. You're not contacting Media by Dibs. Check out Media by Dibs. He's on Facebook, Instagram, everything. It's Media by Dibs. Mention Belly Up to the Bar. He's going to give you a 10% discount. That's another Marine. Making sure we're supporting those Marine businesses. I'm going to take care of my own every time. So we've got that. Dude, you've already got some, the Podfather jumped on with us tonight. Herb, evening gentleman. Chrissy Smith. She says she's got his Bluetooth in his ear. Absolutely. Chrissy, he's always got his Bluetooth. We had to actually talk about this. I made him go get wired headphones in. And then Lulu, no, that's awesome. So we already got some folks. So Vinny, tell everybody a little bit about what is Rome. Well, let's go back even further. So you were in the Marine Corps. How long were you in for?
I did 16 and a half years. I retired as an E7, a gunnery sergeant, got hurt in my last deployment. And here I am today. So you did logistics in the Marine Corps. A little bit of this. I was an infantry guy, right? So we are jack of all trades, masters of none. So I learned a lot. Logistics was the key element, but believe it or not, my success and everything I owe to was the behold recruiting world. Uh, everything, I mean, from marketing to talking to people, recruiting.
And we've talked about that on the show before. And Lulu, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Lulu said, "Thank you for your service, gentlemen."
Thank you.
And recruiting's different. Like, and I've explained this to people before. Marine Corps recruiting, in my opinion, is completely different than any other recruiting you will ever see, because we were sent to, especially our generation, we were sent to formal schools that IBM and Xerox was sending their salespeople to. We were learning. Marine Corps, actually, if you didn't know this, folks, if you look up the advertising firm J. Walter Thomas, which is a monster advertising firm, we're talking New York City big boys, that's who does all the Marine Corps advertising. Like, they put out the money. So guys like Vinny and I, that's what we were taught off of. John L., what's up, brother? That's what we were taught off, was this kind of thing. So you get out of the Marine Corps, medically discharged, you got to pay bills, brother. I mean, you're going to get your disability, you're going to get your medically retired, because you took the medical retirement, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Medically retired, so you're not getting the double or nothing like it. What are you going to do, man? Like, where do we go?
It was scary. It's scary. I mean, the reality is my whole, young adult life, I'm institutionalized in the military, right? And, they tell you what to do and when to get up. And then, you really not your own, right? And then one day you broke and now you say, hey, it's time for you to move on. I was blessed that when I got to the capital region, I started with Toys for Tots. I was voluntold to run Toys for Tots. And, I was a recipient of Toys for Tots growing up, so it was near and dear to me. But as an active duty Marine, we don't really know what Toys for Tots really does until you get into the reserve side of the world. And I met a lot of people, and when I finally found out I couldn't play in the sandbox no more, I had some opportunity, in the capital region really opened up the doors for me. So I had, 3-4 different job options. I met a guy by the name of David Prescott. And he let me into his organization at Integra Optics, and I started being his logistics coordinator, kind of moved on from being the logistics coordinator to logistics manager, so on and so forth. That was the door opener, kind of the breather to kind of, I was making some money, finally had the, a little bit of my sea legs under me, but it's definitely a scary journey, for sure.
Now, as Vinny glosses over Toys for Tots, I'm not letting that shit get away. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a person who single-handedly made Amtrak run Toys for Tots. When they were ready to quit, Vinny Roman grabbed them by their collar and said, "No, this is what's going to happen." And he made them get involved. This is a gentleman who brought news crews, who brought anyone and everyone, congressmen, senators, you name it. They went and saw Toys for Tots. And folks, this wasn't while he was just in the Marine Corps. He did it afterwards. So listen, he's still doing it. So before his ass sits here and glosses over Toys for Tots, like, yeah, I did it a couple of times, like I put some toys in a box or went and got a box. This is the person that if you were anywhere up and down the Hudson line, from Plattsburgh to good God, who knows where down into the city, and your child got a toy from Toys for Tots or got a coat, Vinny Roman put that together. So don't let him just gloss over that.
It's humbling. Yeah, I mean, I don't.
You just blew off something. Like you're the guy in the. You're not as good looking as that Marine in the commercial, but you're there.
It's it's for me. It's I don't do anything. I mean, Chrissy, you're right. I don't do anything half-assed. You're absolutely right about that. We're either gonna do it or we're not gonna do it, right? And when I got into Fox 225, I got turned over to Toys for Tots, voluntold to do this thing, and I had no turnover. I had no understanding of it. And here I am right out of Iraq going, what am I supposed to do? We broke. And the CEO said I needed to make this thing look good. I called every person I knew, contacted. I met Patrick Lorenz, who turned out to be one of my best friends. And he pointed me in the right direction. I went to the news crew, got some money, and we went from helping 60,000 kids to doing over 216,000 kids. We raised $4.5 million in roughly about 100 days. We cover 1.47 million miles, which is the third largest Toys for Tots campaign in the country. But I always say it, and Murph, you know I tell you this all the time. I'm just a conductor, man. I just push that throttle back and forwards, but the people that I'm surrounding myself with are the real movers and shakers. I just keep the train kind of running. That's my thing.
He's we've had some pretty impressive folks on here, and if you haven't figured out anything as this series has gone along, everyone that I've introduced you all to, whether it be Vinny, Brian Morrell, Chrissy Smith, or Christine Smith, as of last week, I've never seen her name as Chrissy. Donnie, Bovine. Something I want all of you to think about, and it's funny that John L was on here, and I hope he's still on. John L, who was my first real trainer on the railroad, every single one of these people is infectious to be near. You want to stand near them. You want to hear their stories. You want to see what they're going on. You want to know what their next step is. And you're upset if your wagon's not hitched to it. You want to know why. And Vinny's notorious for this. So here it is, Vin. You're out of the Marine Corps. You're doing your first logistics position. Where do we go from doing that to, you were, for a little bit there, you were like a company hitman. They would call you up and be like, hey, this is broken. Can you come in and fix it? And it wasn't even contract. Like, I always remember reaching out to you. I was like, hey, man, there's a job over at the Red Cross. And you were like, yeah, I'm already there. I'm working that right now. And then, like, I felt like it was 4 or 5 months later. I'm like, hey, man, they're hiring another position. Oh, man, I've already left there. I got everything up and running. They're running good. They're fine now. I had another company call me. I'm on my way. So where did you go from this first logistics position to being a hitman to fix companies?
Well, it kind of all started. I went from there to being the chief operating officer of the American Red Cross. And it was just getting into these companies and seeing an opportunity. And honestly, just building the teams, right? Getting good people and taking these folks and showing them how good they can be, and then getting them to the next level. And as I'm going through this journey, as a lot of military men, they start realizing that I don't really like working for other people. That's the key, right? Like, I enjoy what I was doing at the Red Cross, right? That is a fact. We struggle with that, right? And it was good. I had people, I fixed them, I elevated them. But then at the end of the day, you really don't have a say at the end state. You can't focus on what it is. So it always just put a sour taste in my mouth, because if my boss is doing something that I know could be done better, what are you going to say? Hey, boss, you suck? You can't say that. Like, I mean,
you can.
Really,
Tell me how it works.
It ain't going to get you far. Right? It ain't going to get you far. But I realized real fast that it wasn't for me. And then people started asking me, hey, can I help? Can you come give me some advice? Can I help this? Can I help that? And, it wasn't until I actually I made a decision, and I went with a company, and, I hit rock bottom. I made a very, impulsive move. I was very successful in that impulsive move. But I learned from that, right? That was the biggest mistake of my life. And, I tell people, mistakes are good. Mistakes is where we learn from, but it's how you recover from those mistakes that makes you who you are, right? And I mean, yo, brother, I was 6, 7 months without no income coming in.
No check.
No check, no wife wasn't getting a check because she was right there by my side. And my biggest success is not my business. My biggest success is my family, because without my wife, I'm shit. And I'll tell everybody that I ain't shit without my wife.
Well, your wife, and she deserves every bit the kudos. You and I talk all the time. Vinny's wife is ride or die. We hear that term all the time, and you always hear people like, "Oh, I've got somebody by my side, this, that, or the other." I feel that way about my wife. Vinny's wife has been. If you see a picture of him, she's there. She is in that shot. She's his equal partner in all of it. And that's got, that kind of begs the question, you know, what does that, so you're doing this, you hit the rock bottom, you know, was there ever, before you became this serial entrepreneur, starting businesses, selling businesses, running businesses, walking into other people's businesses and saying, you need to change happy to glad before you really hurt yourself. Was there ever a point, you hit this rock bottom where you're like, for the comedical side of it, what did you ever hit that point where you're like, I could sell cars, I could sell used cars? I mean, where did you hit that point where you just said, again, okay, I'm just going to start all over, I'm going to start my own gig again?
Bro, I mean, that's literally at that point, at that pinnacle of my life. 7 months, no income. I started applying for jobs. I had this lady, Karen. She was like, Vinny, I got this guy I can introduce you to. She helps veterans. Let me make some connections. And I said, yo, I'm gonna go run a distribution center. I need to make some money. I needed to do whatever I needed to do, because my mistakes, my kids, my family weren't gonna see me sweat. And let me tell you, where I come from the bottom of the bottom. And, I grew up in a 1-bedroom apartment, 7 people living in, and it's not a sad story, but it's my story. It's made me who I am today, because I run off of fear of going back to where I never want to be. See, people use excuses to say that that's where they're at. I use my circumstance to fight to get the hell out of that.
Thank you. So fear was your motivator.
Fear is my motivator.
Every day.
It still is every day. It's just like when you're in the Marine Corps, you made your doggone mission because you fear that you're gonna get an adverse fit rep. You fear that you were gonna do something bad, right? And
yes.
Right.
It's amazing that you would say that. I don't think we have enough fear, and it's weird to say it that way. People are like, what do you mean we don't have enough fear? I can tell you with what I do right now, I'm the equivalent of a startup with what I do and finding people work. We didn't exist in this area. We weren't a name. And every day I walked away from, and I'll give Vinny gets a lot of kudos from me. I will never say, Vinny and I were sitting in opposite barber chairs one day. Do you remember this?
Yep.
Sitting in opposite barber chairs. I had retired out of the Marine Corps. He was retired. We looked over at each other. Didn't even realize we were sitting next to each other. We look over at each other, and he goes, well, what are you doing? And I tell him what I was at. He's like, you're not going to like that. I was like, shut up. I'm going to love it. It's great. He goes, you're not going to like that. Hands me and says, call me when you're done with it, because you're not going to like it. We knew each other well enough. So it wasn't, 3 months later, I'm calling Vinny. I'm like, hey, man, I got to get out of this. So he hooks me up with my job at Amtrak, helps me get in there. Old school, folks. When I say old school, it was one of those kind of situations where somebody goes, be here this day at this time for the formalities. It's your job. Don't worry about it. It was like when I was, listen here, son, don't worry about it. You got a job. I'm going to take you in. It'll be a beautiful thing. It was one of those kind of deals. And he got me into that position. That's so when I say, we talk about networking around here and how important it is. Vinny is a networking ninja, but he got me into that position And I have to tell you, I walked away from it back in June. And I know exactly what Vinny means. I am scared every day I go to work, every day. Because I walked away from a job that I could have been do it for the rest of my life and it would have been no big deal. I'd have made good money. But I chose to build something. And I'm curious with everybody who's out there right now, who's got question, who's tried to build something or is ready to build something? Because you got a guy right here who can tell you what you need to do between, I'll tell you from a networking standpoint, but Vinny is the kind of person that can put you on that road. And I got to tell you, Vinny, you got some fans out here. Masabab Habad says best boss ever. Not
That's
sure who
my
that.
that's my left hand in this evolution. That's Mosfa Haddad. He's my operations manager. This guy, new into the country, been here a couple of years, and I met him. He was doing Uber Eats and delivering food, and we interviewed him for a position in the company, and he goes, "I don't want to be a damn driver for the rest of my life. Like I'm an educated guy. I'm just new to this country." My wife didn't really didn't understand what he meant by that. She took it as offense, and she took it personal, right? She was like, "Yo, this is my company. I'm not trying to treat you like like crap." And he came on and started off as a driver for me. And I got Jendrick Hans, who's my right hand, and a 26-year-old young man, right, came in and I do what I did best. I groom them and create these fantastic men and women, and they running these companies with me for me. And it's humbling because when you see these guys that have that tenacity, that love, and you just giving them the opportunity, that's the shit, bro. If you give people the opportunity and you believe in them, man, like anything is possible. So everybody goes and says, "Yo, Vinny does this, Vinny does that." I do a lot, but honestly, I do a lot of believing in people so that they believe in themselves. And ultimately, is that psychological warfare that they start believing in so much that they go, "Yo, boss, I don't need you no more. Sit your ass down. I got this." That's empowerment.
Well, isn't it now? Now that's a great question, and I'm curious. And Lulu No is loving it, talking about empowerment. Absolutely. Now you bring up a great point, and this is one of those things that's different, and it can be tough for those of us in the service. Um, what was that first feeling like? Because in the services, we ultimately want somebody who works for us to tell us, "Take it, I got this, go away." We're looking for that. When you got into the civilian world and started working those civilian jobs and attempted to do those things, what was the reaction you were getting?
Oh, hell no. It was a cutthroat environment. They didn't want you to, they didn't, because they felt by giving you that power, by giving up that power, they were going to lose their credibility in their job. Um, and it's always been different for me. I mean, when I was at Integra, I had Sergeant Gibson, another Marine, work with me, and I empowered them and gave them that influence even then. Um, and you could always make yourself relevant one way, shape, or form. But in the civilian world, people don't really see that. I mean, even in the military, people don't really see that. It's a cutthroat world. It takes a special somebody to really build trust. And I trust you wholeheartedly until I don't trust you anymore.
You have my trust until you lose it.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what these guys and ladies do for me, with me.
Now most of them, I know you mentioned a couple other Marines that have worked for you, but what has been, and brother, I'm gonna try to say your name, Musa Baha. Is that
Mosby, just say Mo. Just say
Mo?
Mo.
All right, Mo. So a guy like Mo, who isn't from the states, here he is with this guy, and you're empowering him like that. What has been the reaction? I mean, most of us want to be in charge of something, but what are you seeing as a, excuse me, as somebody in the role that you're in? What are you seeing as reaction from some of these people? Are people like, yeah, great, grabbing it from you, or has it been like, yo, this is a lot to take on? What are you seeing?
Both. Both. I have when I look at both of my, my teams, right? I got my left and my right hand, right? I got Jendrick on one hand, who I throw things at him. He's more reserved, cautious about it, right? And he's like, whoa, hold on, right? Then you have, Mo, who is more of a risk taker, but willing to go and trip and fall. Jendrick is more of a perfectionist. So it really depends on the individual, but you get both sides of the spectrum. They're not bad. Both of them are equally important, but just in different aspects, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense to me. So here we are. We're 7 months down the road. I remember when you took on the position in the distribution warehouse. I remember reaching out to you. We were talking. Where do we go from there? How do we leave that again? And we're stepping out on our own, because you've already hit, like, Vinny, I put your story out there. I always liked the story. You fell, and I know the other story. You fell flat on your face, eat shit, and now here you are. You're putting money in your pocket. The family's okay. You guys are doing good, and you're going to step out again.
Yeah.
What was that conversation like? And Mo says it. He owns his own business because of you. That's empowerment, brother. That's paying it forward to somebody else. That's not holding on to the secrets.
No, and it's my thought process, and me and Joanna talked about it, right? We said this was a temporary move. I needed to put money on the table, and I was gonna do it or die, period. And in my family, I don't really have anybody that I can rely on in my immediate family.
Well, Jay.
So, when I mean my immediate, I mean like my parents, outside of my household. My parents are both deceased, I'm by myself, whatever. And I only really had my my mother-in-law and my father-in-law that I said, listen, I want to start this logistics company and I need some money. And I was like, they walked out the room. They came back with a check and they said, how much? Never in my life I had anybody tell me that, right? And me and my in-laws, we've had some rocky scenarios, but we've always had a great relationship. But I've never had somebody say, here's an open check, go out and take it. I gave him a figure. He wrote it. Didn't ask me for a business plan. Didn't ask me for anything. I set this LLC up and I charged away and never looked back.
Well, if you were my son-in-law, I'd have issues also. I mean, and look, Eric Cook jumping on with us. What's up? Another one of my Marines. So here it is. Roman Empire Logistics has started. And folks, I've thrown it up there on our banner. And for those of you that are listening to the podcast side of this, make sure you're checking out Roman Empire Logistics. If you're down in the city looking for work, Vinny's got work down in the city. If you're up here in the Albany area, Vinny's got work up in the Albany area. I don't know why he won't work with me, though. I mean, we had that conversation the other day. I just keep busting his chops over it. But, Vinny's out there. Check out Roman Empire Logistics, just like it sounds. RomanEmpireLogistics.com. Check him out. And I'll also tell you, if you go and look for Vinny on like LinkedIn and you want to reach out to him and find out like, hey, I've got a business plan. I got an idea. I got something that I'm looking for. It's Albert. I look at him. He looks like a fucking Albert.
You're giving out all my secrets, bro.
It's Albert Roman Jr. on LinkedIn and all that. So make sure you reach out and let him know. Real quick here, Lulu, you're not afraid of sharing the mental wealth, pushing others to success. Eric Cook jumping on. I will work with you. Let me know what I can do. I mean, absolutely, brother. I mean, why wouldn't somebody? I mean, Vinny's just one of those guys. Again, very contagious, but I will also tell you, don't come halfway. Don't bring half a step.
Can't be half cocked.
You will get run over. So here it is. They hand you the check. We're going to start our logistics company. I love Sean Murphy Logistics. That was the first name. I guess he went with Roman Empire Logistics, which I think is just bullshit. Should have went with the first name. So this thing kicks off here. We're going full forward. Then what?
2019. I think it's August 27th, 2019. We started with 5 vans, 8 drivers. We were supposed to start with 10. 2 didn't show up on me the first day, so we started out with 8. Fast forward, we were at about, I don't know, 4 months into this.
You can't fast forward that. So what was that first? I mean, Vinny, first day running logistics, delivering goods. We'll call it delivering goods. Goods. What? 2 guys don't show up. You still got to make these runs. You got 5 vans. All of them say free candy on the side of them. What happens here? What is that day like?
Well, that day is chaos because I brought all 8 people with only 5 vans just to make sure I cover my assets, right? I got to cover my ass. It was nerve-wracking, right? I had never done it before real time like that, right? Other than, in the Marine Corps here, there. And now my name is attached to all this. And it was kind of like watching your kids give birth. As soon as these people jumped into this van and they took off, like, yeah, here I am. And off you go into the streets of Queens and Brooklyn. Real nerve-wracking, but we made it. We made it, and we rinsed and repeated. Our first year, we grew onto 40 vans. 40 vans, about 80 employees. Then our
That's
first
legit.
Yeah.
I mean, bro, you're talking 40 vans, 80 employees. You got a full-time HR person. You've got a logistics manager. The other one you said you're right.
I got an ops manager. I got an ops manager, 2 ops managers. I have on the road supervisors, and then I got lead drivers that are on the road.
So, and that was, and now that's August of 2019. August of 2018, where are we?
2018, I was in 2018. I was in Save-A-Lot, pushing groceries out across the Eastern New York.
Think about that, folks. In a matter of a year, from a grocery guy to running his own logistics company, running services, every day and I'm going to put this out there. This would be my PSA for all this. Every day when you say, I don't know if I can, I don't know if I'm about it. There's my boy, Chad. Chad, real sidebar real quick as I get ready to go on my soapbox. You need to reach out to me because we got an interview we got to do. But as we sit there and we think, I can't, I'm not willing to, it all works out. I can't say it enough. It will work out. You can continue to fail every day as long as you move forward. As long as you realize what you did the day prior, as long as you don't do the same shit again. I always, and here's a big thing. I want to get your thoughts on this, Vinny. How do you feel about people that when they have their first mistake, they do a full rudder adjustment and just go a whole separate direction? What is your statement to that?
I think it's crazy.
Why?
I think it's absurd because a mistake, you got to learn from it based on what the scenario is. The mistake is only, you got to pivot, not completely turn the ship around. You gotta pivot, and you gotta be able to stay true to what was your mission intent, right? What was that mission statement? Just because something didn't work out, right? So my plan is I got to deliver packages all across Brooklyn and Queens. And my vans broke down. I'm not going to stop. And now I'm going to go deliver with motorcycles and completely change my platform. But that's what people do. You got to adapt, overcome, use that example from that scenario, that mistake that happened, and adjust. You got to adjust slightly. It's almost like when you, right, back at the rifle range, side alignment, side pitcher, right? You shoot from the 500-yard line, right? Just small adjustments get you into the block. Same thing in business. You can't just complete just because you tripped and fell and something didn't work right. Always go back to the basics. What's that mission statement? What are you trying to accomplish? And continue that path. You always got to make a tweak here, there. You always got to kind of elevate it. Doesn't matter. You can't ever stop elevating it. You're always going to fix it, break it, fix it, and break it.
Now, here, let's fix this. Hey, Nathan, where are you at? So this has been an ongoing thing. Hey, Nathan, you want to tell everybody what happened this week in fantasy football? What place are you playing for? We'll all wait for your statement. If anybody's wondering, it's not first like your boy is. Your boy's playing for first. Nathan got his ass kicked by your boy this week. So going back to basics. Hey, look, that even brings me right into the basics kind of statement. When you talk about basics, look at that, third place, second loser. So you talk about basics and you're building that basics plan. So you got handed a check. In your head, you had a plan and you were going to build this thing. What were some of the things that, going back, you've been successful? And when I say serial entrepreneur, Vinny, how many other businesses have been spawned off of what we're at right now? How many other things?
So right now I have an Amazon store that we run. I have Acuity Risk Consultant. I'm a partner in a risk management team as well, out of Long Island. I'm helping my boy right there, Mo, start up his mechanic shop. We're doing a body shop this year for that. I mean, the list could go on.
I mean, and you've sold some of these businesses.
I have a flooring company. Started that up and got at the right place at the right time, and people saw the noise that my wife and I were making, and we were able to sell that, make a profit off of it, and move forward as well. I mean, everything's about. That's a good example of a pivot. So this is a perfect example, right? So be careful on biting off more than you can chew, right? So I'm notorious for, I'm always afraid, and people think that I chase money and that I'm chasing money. I don't chase money. I chase opportunities, right? To give me the opportunity to create a passive income so that I can live a successful retirement. That's my goal in life, right? So I went out and decided, you know what, I'm gonna make more money. I'm gonna put a flooring company up. I'm the least handiest mother of flower you're gonna have out there, right? I can't hang a damn TV. Now, I got into this flooring thing, and I realized real fast I'm really fucking good at it. But being 16 hours in a van isn't conducive to the business. And that's a mistake that I chose, right? Because everything else I was trying to balance all these different balls. So I was able to elevate it, made a lot of money, sold it because of the work that I put. But the lesson that I learned is my ass don't need to be in a van 16 hours a day. I need to figure out other things to do.
You're not a labor. You're moving beyond the laborer point.
Oh, bro, don't even get me started. I ripped carpet one time because I tried to show the installer how to do his job.
Yeah, how'd that work
out? My Marine Corps came back at me and told me I'm not allowed to do that no more.
And then the allergies kicked in from all that dust kicking up off the floor. Yeah, that goes back to somebody once was like, "Hey, would you ever go? Roofing's great money." I'm like, "Yeah, I did that shit one time. I'll never do that again." I'm not built for that world.
Eric, I am in the cannabis. I'm already in the cannabis line with the risk consultant side of it. We already dabbling in that as well.
Look, send me a message, Eric, because I've been trying to figure out how to get into it. I just can't do it. Have you looked at, sidebar to all this, left turn for a moment, folks. Have you looked at what the cost of a license in New York is?
$250,000.
And if they don't give it to you, you don't get your money back.
Yeah.
So think about that. For all of you that are like, hey, I want to get into the weed business, you're better to be the security guard or sell some shit at the counter, because if you ain't got stacks, and that's the only thing I find dirty in the New York cannabis business. I've looked at it, is it's dirty from the standpoint of, if it's $250,000 just to get a license to sell it distributor, and that doesn't. And then you got to find cities that around here that haven't turned around and said, no, we don't want it in our town. A lot of towns in throughout New York have been like, no. Some have gone back to it. It's God. It's a whole conversation in and of itself, because it's definitely a business that I've talked about. Like, I would be so interested in getting into it, only because how many times can you get in, whether you're into smoking or not, people are going to do it. How many times in your life can you get into the ground floor of an industry?
It's exciting. It's exciting. And I'm not in it at the, at the ground level, like getting the stuff, but I am in it in the whole process. The team that my partners, they really invested a lot of the time and energy in building this out. So we work in that angle as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I've done, like I said, I've done some looking, talked to friends, but like I said, I don't know about anybody else. You can't get a bank loan for it because of the federal side to it, and unless you're working with folks that got $250,000 in cash sitting around that are willing to be like, yeah, those are not. I know I grew up in East Baltimore. I know where Vinny grew up at. If I knew a cat that had $250,000 sitting around, you weren't going to want to pay the VIG on that shit.
No.
You might not want to fuck with that too much. And nope. I ain't that guy. So now this becomes part of the question. So we're talking about some businesses, some things that are jumping up. I want to go back to 2019 for a minute. You get that check. Is there anything that you would say to that Vinny that maybe would have made life a little bit easier on you?
Yeah. Do your research. Do your research on the industry. I don't assume you know things. You don't. That's how the risk management thing came about. I didn't know shit about insurance. I should have educated myself on insurance, on how New York State, New York City insurances, dealing with insurances. When you're dealing with fleets as large as I do, you're talking about a $2 million policy. You're talking about loss runs. I never really dealt with those things. I didn't educate myself fully on what the criteria is. How does that, how do you build that into your business plan, into your P&L, right? Is your rates going to go up? How do I control my rates? Workers' comp. How do I avoid this, right? All these things, like, these are things that I say that when you're starting a business, either find someone that has the experience or surround yourself with smarter people than you are. And that's what I did. We went to a restaurant. I met these guys from the NBA, an Air Force guy, one of my favorite Air Force dudes, and an Indian, right? We talked about it. They started this company. They had the experience on the insurance side. Now I surrounded myself by smarter people. They were able to give me that information that I needed to move on. So if I had a Vinny then, I would tell Vinny, find those smart people, spend the money if you need to, but don't be afraid to say you don't know, because that's the problem, that a lot of entrepreneurs want to say, I know everything. I got this, my way or the highway. That's not necessarily true, because I learned a lot from my 26-year-old Jendrick, who used to tell me I need to learn how to let go and trust, than I learned from 16 and a half years in the Marine Corps, right? You got to be humble, because that's the key. Other people have good ideas, and it's okay to take ideas from other people. It's okay.
It's not stealing. I say this all the time. The wheel was invented a long time ago. The rest of us has just been adding to that shit. I'll use an analogy that I like. So I love comic books, and
you don't say
out a little bit. I mean, you know me. We've got a big collect. We've got our quarterly meeting with Doug Dreyer next week, talking about comics. Do you know who Neil Adams is?
No.
Do you know Neil? Fucking pay attention, Vinny. Stop. What are you doing?
You know me, man. Come on, man.
God. But I throw this out there. Where Neil Adams, one of the most influential people in comics, he traces things.
Really?
Now think about that for a minute. when we think about comic books and we think those artists, he traces things. And he'll tell you some of the best artists ever, Jack Kirby, traced things. Because why am I going to work harder, work smarter? So here we are. And I throw that out there because I know everybody's talking, and I've tied that into what Vinny's saying. Don't try to do it all yourself. I know it's scary to introduce other people because they have ideas different than yours in your business plan. Your plan isn't always great. If you've listened to my show, this is episode, I think, 93. If you've ever listened to my show and you go back to the first episodes, this episode sounds nothing like that one because we had to grow and we had to evolve. We had to get better at what we were doing. We had to make sure everybody felt welcome at the bar. So here we are, Vinny. We launched in 2019. March hits. What is March of 2020 like for somebody who a fresh business owner? You're less than what? 9 months?
Yeah.
9 months, new business, New York City, new business. What is that like?
That was crazy. I had to make a decision, right? I live in Albany in upstate, so in the capital region. My business is in the city and in the hotspot of COVID. I had to make a decision to move down to the city and do what I had to do for my people. So we were running we were running 100 trucks on the road. I had to convey and trust and have everyone trust me that we were going to take care of them throughout this whole pandemic. We had to create systems that we were keeping them safe. So when they bring vans in, how we spray them down, how we clean, sanitize everything, so on and so forth. And I needed to show my team, my folks, that I was there with them. We are all blue collar workers. So they needed to see me there. I'm no different than anybody else. I put my pants on one leg at a time. And I needed to show that. And it was scary. So my wife ran the whole back end with my HR, Barbara in the back end. And, that's the dynamic duel in the back. And then it was me and Jendrick and Mo up front. And that's how we ran it. And we not only succeeded and gave jobs when people didn't have jobs and opportunity, we became the top company out there in the 5 boroughs. And we ran 100 trucks in the worst time of the years. And we did it with pristine. We hit metrics that we have. We hit the highest metrics, and the stations that we're coming out of, the warehouses, they were all new. So this is all new. I'm adapting, overcoming. We were kind of like the guinea pigs. It was a hell of a run. It was scary as hell. It still is. It hasn't ended. I got a new evolution right now.
Right. Yeah, no. We were just talking about that earlier today. Vinny and I were talking. I think him and I normally hit each other up with a phone call about once every 2 to 3 months. What's going on? Have you caught on fire? Are you still alive? What's happening? All those things. And I'll throw some things out that have been coming up. Lulu said, add your branch to the tree. You're absolutely right. Nathan, I'll give Nathan this. He's horrible at fantasy football, but he's very good at guest booking and finding people. For some reason, people want to talk to him. I haven't figured it out yet. I try to delete him out of my phone. It keeps popping back up. And Jeanette, I've missed you so much, Jeanette. Jeanette is our English Badger. She is amazing. And she says it's great to find people who are generous with their knowledge and are happy to encourage people who want to be in the same business. I promise you, and I've run into this. Have you run into this? I'm curious because your wife wasn't in the Marine Corps. She was close enough. She spent enough time around it. But have you run into, or maybe the folks that you're talking about, like Gendron and Mo, who you kind of say, hey, well, I'm going to tell somebody about this. And they're like, why are you giving away our secret? Why are you telling our information? Have you run into people who are like, don't do that. They're going to know what you know.
Mo tells me that shit all the time. He's like, why are you telling them this? You don't need to tell them that. Because anytime that I see another business owner and I talk to them, I always say, listen, I'm going to send somebody from my team to go make sure that you're doing it right. And if you're not doing it right, or if you're doing it, see if you can do it better. And I tell and I don't force them. I ask them.
Right.
Hey, Gendry, can you go help so-and-so? Hey, Mo, can you go help? They never really understood. But to me, I'm creating a team behind me that believes in me because I believed in them. So therefore, you never know what you're gonna need, man. And I believe in doing the right thing for the right reasons when nobody's watching. And who gives a fuck? If I can show somebody that shit, who gives a fuck? Success is success.
Brother, you're nailing it. I promise you, if I told you what I do, maybe you can do it like I do it. Maybe you do it better than I do it. But if you don't do it, that don't hurt my feelings. You got to do it. And that's the biggest thing, when people say they don't want to tell someone or they don't want to give away the information or give away the secret. Listen to me. The secret's already out there. It's have you gone out and found it? Have you gone out and executed? And that's what Vinny does. Roman Empire Logistics.com. Make sure you're checking it out. You go and find him on his LinkedIn at Albert Roman Jr. Reach out to Vinny and connect with him. I'm telling you, you won't be disappointed. And he's one of the, you're listening to the two of us. It sounds like a bunch of assholes who can't speak the English language. Between my accent and his accent, it can just get silly. It just sounds like hard. But the other side to it is you're talking about two guys who had to figure it out, had to find a way to make it happen. I don't run my own business, but I run my own world. I've got a great network behind me. I've got this world. This is my business right here, talking to you guys. And I can tell you how to do it, but will you execute it? And that's what Vinny's telling you. He can tell you all about it, but are you going to execute it? And I promise you something. And I want to get Vinny's opinion on this. Vinny, if I told you that, hey, and I'll use Jeanette because she's on here, or Lulu, they reached out to you and they followed your plan. They're doing what you said to do, and they're making more money than you. How would you feel about that?
Yo, excited, man. I'm doing it. I'm doing it right now. I just got a phone call from a staff sergeant. Me and Pat Lorenz are helping broker this deal. And I literally called the staff sergeant and I said, staff sergeant, you know that you're gonna take this company starting tomorrow. You're gonna be a business owner. Do you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G? I got it. I get it. All right. There's no secret except hard fucking work. Going out there, having the tenacity, the intestinal fortitude to go out there, grab the shit by the fucking balls and go out and get it. That's it. That's it. And be afraid to fucking fail. If you're not afraid, then that's a fucking problem in my world, because I'm going to be afraid to drop that ball and I'm not afraid of making mistakes, but I'm going to be afraid of failing. And that's what keeps me, if I'm not kept up awake at night, knowing that I got a responsibility to Mo, to Jendrick, to all these dudes out there and the ladies that work for me, then I'm a shit ass individual because I really ain't putting my full focus into it. And that's the difference, man. I don't chase money. I change lives. And through that process, I become successful.
That's a great t-shirt. I don't chase money. I change lives. I think we just created the new Roman Empire shirt. I don't chase money. I change lives. I do need $1 off of every one of those t-shirts.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and put that on TeePublic. You heard it here, trademarked from the Above the Bar podcast. I'm going to save that shit. So, but I mean, you're absolutely right. So here we are. It's now and you kind of mentioned it. I watched the news this morning here in Albany, where we're located at on the East Coast, and it came up. We had the highest number of cases ever.
57,000.
It was some ridiculous number, like more than when this whole thing started. So again, you're a business owner, and we talked about this earlier today. You're rotating 8 on, 8 off. Got healthy, great. Now that you got healthy, I got the same amount of guys that just went out. Okay, now you guys just went out, I guess, got more healthy. What advice would you give to somebody running a business today, as this is getting worse than it was before? And we're not shutting anything down. That's the crazy thing to me. And I understand what the shutdown did. I understand what it did to businesses, what it did to schools. I'm not advocating for it. Don't anybody send me any hate mail. And if you guys don't send me any mail anyway, so I don't give a shit. But what I'm saying is what do you tell that person who maybe they're looking to start a business tomorrow, like they're launching tomorrow, and we just had this news? What's the best Vinny Roman advice, Roman logistics? What are we telling that person?
You have to be thinking 5, 10, 15, 20 weeks ahead. You got to be looking at what's in the pipeline. So, for instance, right now in our business, knowing that we have all these highs, COVID cases and people getting sick within the winter, the flu, whatever the case may be, Mo's already looking to hire more folks and have people on the bench to circulate that, because there's going to be people that are not going to want to come back to work. So you got to constantly think, but do not lose focus of the people. You have to stay in tune with your people, and you got to feel the atmosphere, and you got to make sure you picking up that phone when somebody goes down. Make sure that they're okay. Hey, how you feeling? Do those checks. Why can't you call that family at home and say, how is mom doing? Hey, I know you got it. Is everybody else at home okay? Right? Like, it's not necessarily just me having to do it, but empowering the rest of your supervisors, leadership team to do it amongst each other. That's the best advice that I can give you, because that's what's helping us as my peers around me are dropping routes and rotations. We still haven't, and we haven't until this point, thank God, but it's because we think ahead of time. I yell at Mo sometimes, or at Gendrick, at why we got so many people or why we got so many this, and they covering their ass. They thinking 5, 10, 15, 20 days ahead of it. So that's the key, thinking always ahead, and always having always problem solving, even when there's not a problem. Break your processes, fix it, break it again, fix it again. You can never have a tight enough process. There's always room for improvement, always. It's just like in the battlefield.
Now, I've got.
Does that make sense?
It does. It makes sense. And you bring up something from a leadership standpoint. Where do you feel like a leader has to go from sympathetic to leader? And what I mean by that is, some of the things you're talking about, I do that all the time. I'm running into it all the time with my folks. Hey, what's going on? What's happening? How's your family? Losses, all these things. But where do you switch it and just have to? Do you have your trigger point where, hey, we just got to cut this loose? We just got to cut them loose. Do you understand the question? I don't know.
I mean, sometimes you got to go from emotions to business. You got to go from.
Where do you go from emotion to business? Mo said otherwise we're going to sit in the corner, cry. Mo, is Mo in Albany, or is he in the city?
He's in the city.
Do you let him come up to Albany?
He comes up here. He comes up here. He always goes to Lake George, bro.
Mo,
I take care of him.
Mo, next time you're up this way, if Vinny don't keep you away, we'll sit down. We'll get us a bottle of bourbon, and we're gonna sit down and we're gonna talk. I like Mo already. Mo's my kind of people. Like, oh, y'all think just because I got here, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about? Y'all can eat shit. I love it already. So, but where does it really go from when you make that transition as a leader? And I know, folks, we're going to get ready to go over an hour here shortly, but I really think that this is we're getting behind the curtain of some leadership things. I know where it is for me. Where do you feel like it is for you?
You really got to keep your finger on the pulse on your culture, on your company, right? You got to know your people. So as cliche as it sounds, like in the Marine Corps, know your Marines and seek self-improvement, right? And that's what I tell my guys. I check myself between Barbara, my HR person, and Mo, who's my boots on the ground, right? And I tell them how I feel based on the scenario, and then we'll make a decision as a team with Joanna, everyone's opinion. And there's times that I get vetoed. I'm the goddamn owner. I get vetoed. They say no.
Not today.
No, it ain't even Jay. It's actually Mo. It's actually the Gendricks. It's actually the Barbers of the world. They'll tell me, Vinny, we don't agree with you, and this is why. And this is where I go back to. Sometimes I could get emotional, and say, yo, Sean is trying to fuck me. Fuck
Right.
Sean. Like, no. And then Mo's like, well, you weren't with him, but his cat died and he's having some serious issues. And we need to be a little bit more understanding. And you got to be able to balance that. And you got to, so I use, why have a team if you don't use them?
Right.
So I use the shit out of my team. I can't function without the risk consultant. So without a security, making sure my vehicles, my workers comp, my people, I can't function without them. I can't function without the Mo's. I can't function without my HR, because I need all that advice and that knowledge. Surround yourself with smarter people to help us make the right decisions for the people. That's the difference. When you keep the people in mind as a whole, not individuals, it changes the game.
I'm loving it. And these are things that, look, folks, and Lulu, I think Lulu's kind of human and boss. It makes all the difference. It really does. These are things that, as you're listening to this, these are leadership things. These are the differences. I watched great video, and it was funny because it was like it was from a movie that my kids watched, and look it up. It says something about the difference between a boss and a leader. And it was just a pack of dogs where the lead dog was the only one drinking water, and one of the other dogs cracks the ice and they all can drink. That's what Vinny is telling you. If you have knowledge, you have a good network. I got a strong network. I know I do. I get people all day long that will reach out to me and say, hey, do you know, hold on a sec, I know somebody. Don't be afraid to introduce your network. And that's one of the other things I feel like Vinny's telling you is, don't be afraid to bring people into your network. Don't be afraid to introduce people into your network, because one of those biggest things, if I'm afraid to introduce somebody to Vinny, there's a problem. And that problem really comes from, is he really in my network? Is he really one of my people? Or am I in a whole nother realm here? I should never feel afraid to introduce someone to my network, because at that point, I'm not part of that network. I'm not really in that network, and that network's not working for me. So I challenge everyone that's listening to this, really truly think about this. If somebody's come out to you and said, hey, do you know somebody that does blank? And you didn't introduce them to that person because you're afraid that person will get upset at you, does that person give a shit about you?
No.
That's the question you got to ask yourself. And Jeanette is saying empathy goes a long, she's got a lot of O's in there, way in leadership. It's how you keep loyal employees. I talk about this all the time. And let there be food, water, and work for all, from Lulu. I say this all the time. People don't quit jobs. I have never quit a job.
They quit bosses.
Quit bosses, and they quit cultures. Vinny is creating a culture where people want to be there. He's an employer that people want to work for. But I truly, honestly believe that if you look at your network and somebody reaches out to you, they believe enough in you and think enough of you as a person and say to you, hey, Vinny, I was looking on LinkedIn and you're connected with Mo. Can you introduce me to Mo? If Vinny goes, well, I really can't introduce you to Mo, that wouldn't be a good thing. If he says that to you, you don't have to blow Vinny off, but you got to ask. Vinny at that point should ask himself, how much does my relationship matter between these two people? Because I'm going to tell you right now, if you reach out to me and say, Murph, can you introduce me? I'm either going to tell you I don't know him that well, or here, let me introduce you. And I throw that out there because even today, through LinkedIn, one of a guy who helped me out when I was in a bad spot in my career, he reached out to me and said, hey, Murph, I want to introduce you to another person who is looking to make a career change. His name, the gentleman who helped me out, his name is Andrew. And Andrew reached out to me and was like, hey, Andrew Beach. Andrew reaches out to me and goes, hey, I want to introduce you to somebody. Sure, I'll talk to the guy. Absolutely. It costs me nothing. Passion costs you nothing, folks. Passionate leadership costs you nothing.
But you can grow. You can take that and flourish it to so many other things. I mean, I'll tell you right now, the queen of networking, Chrissy, she's a savage, right?
She's a
She's a
beast.
she's a savage, but if you really look at what she does, she's cultivated a lot of relationships that have grown into something. And that's what it is. That's literally what it is. You surround yourself with good people, man. You do good things, good shit happens. When you're a freaking douchebag, like some people out there, just do what the fuck you're gonna say you're gonna do and get it fucking done. And the rest will all fall into place. That's
I,
it.
I know who he's calling a douchebag. I'm not gonna get it because that's a
That's a hot topic. That's a hot topic.
and I
That's a
fall
Jerry
in,
Springer. That's a
and I
Jerry
fall in
Springer.
and I fall in between it because I love both of you. I love both of you. So here we are. What's the next step for the Roman Empire? We ain't trying to see this empire fall. We don't want to see this empire fall. What's the next step for the Roman Empire moving forward?
So right now it's we the logistics is it's already pretty much on autopilot. Mo got it on autopilot. I'm really just concentrating on the risk consultant side, growing that business, um, making sure that those guys are hitting their capacity and really doing great things because the team is phenomenal. And just looking to a 72-month plan, man. I wanna get to a point that I can move to DR. And
You just bought a house there, didn't you?
that's what I'm doing. Yes, sir.
DR.
And
Why DR? Why
because
DR?
it's cheap. I speak Spanish, and I'm away from everybody.
You're Puerto Rican, aren't you?
Exactly. I don't want
Why
no
DR?
because it's cheap. I don't know nobody, and nobody could just pop in and visit. It'll just be me and Jay on the beach. I'll be my kids. My kids are in school. My son will go to college in 2 more years. They come visit. They got a spare room. I'll be buck naked walking around the beach and calling it a
Oh, no
day.
one wants to see that.
Come on, man. I still get my PFT going, you know?
No one wants to see that. Vinny got to sneak up on a glass of water. Yeah. And I don't speak Spanish, so you can say that shit for me. Que lo que?
Que lo que?
What does that mean?
What's up?
Oh, okay. See, I told you, no habla here. I got it. We'll have to talk about some stories from Master Guns Mac and Master Guns MacArthur. I have to tell you a funny one. What is that? And Lulu's on it. And my Porter Rock. What's a Porter Rock? I don't know what a Porter Rock. What's a Porter Rock?
That's a New York Rican.
Oh,
Instead of putting Puerto Rican, it's just a Puerto Rock.
Porter Rock, like a New Rican. I always know them as New Ricans. That's what I always knew it in the Marine Corps. Look, and that was look, God, that's a whole nother show about shit that you didn't know existed till you got into the Marine Corps. I can absolutely 110% tell you, I met one person of any Hispanic descent during my life growing up until I got into the Marine Corps. And then I got in the Marine Corps and it was like, I'm hearing Banda. I'm hearing like, it sounds like carnival music. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? It's like a whole nother world to me. And I'm like, this is incredible. And
Bro,
now,
I listen to country. What the fuck?
right, exactly. Here you are from New York City, and now you're listening to country music. I grew up in East Baltimore. We had a little bit of like go-go out of DC. That's a whole conversation. Get a bunch of us together and just talk about what was the shit you learned in the Marine Corps, like dip spit, like dipping, like bro. I didn't know nobody did that shit.
Nah,
Like
ain't for
you get in
me.
the Marine Corps and you're like, you run into some kid from like Georgia or Alabama, and he's got like
they take that dip out, put it on their bedside, wake up in the morning, put that shit right back in.
Hey man, you just put a little shot of Jack Daniels in that dip there, and you can go all day long with that thing. It tastes just like it. Little Copenhagen and Jack Daniels. Oh, it's a whole nother thing. Well, Vinny, we're gonna get ready to close the sign up here on the bar, brother. You are welcome any day. Somebody, in England, this is where pubs are where they used to do all their business, sign all their contracts. The pub owners used to actually be the notary republics for contracts. Did you know that?
I did not. I just learned something.
Yep. That's why they were called a public house.
Gotcha.
So that's where that term pub comes from, is public house. So, this is a perfect place. So look, folks, I'm going to say it 100 times. I know a few great entrepreneurs, and Vinny is one of them. But where Vinny separates himself is compassion. Set some time off to the side if you're going to talk to him, though, because that shit's going to get long. That motherfucker long-winded. He's got me beat. I get him. The only person I know.
Shit, bro. You worse than me.
The only person I know where I got to be like, motherfucker, please stop talking. God, I gotta get because we got as recruiters, we got to get our words in. Y'all got to get steps in. We got to get words in. And Lulu says this was fun and informative. Thank you. I'll be connecting. Lulu, please connect with both of us. I'm on there also. The Above the Bar podcast and Sean Murphy. Again, if you're looking up Vinny on there on LinkedIn, please go look him out. It's Albert Roman Jr. I know him as Vinny. Even though he's never invited me to his house. That's an interesting thing. Let's talk about that for a minute. No. But
you got weird for a second there, bro.
I did, man. You never invited me to your house. That's kind of weird. I ain't invited that bitch to my house either, so we ain't worried about it. That's the way Marines are. Like, man, I love you. I love you too. Can I come over? No. You ain't, no. But reach out to him. Roman Empire Logistics, RomanEmpireLogistics.com. If there's any questions, you have any questions for us, please make sure you reach out to me at the Above the Bar podcast. That's our name on Facebook, Gmail, Instagram, Twitch. Also, the only one that's weird is, and I don't even know why it's like this. Twitter didn't like the Above the Bar podcast. They gave me Above the Bar 4. Make sure you reach out if you have any questions, anything. If you enjoyed this, make sure you're going on to all your social media devices. You're following us on all those platforms. You're going on and you're following the podcast, because this is the live version, folks. And all of you that joined us for the live version, you can download this. People can hear that I read your stories online here. I love my Jeanette. Cheers. Awesome podcast as usual. Love you, Jeanette. Been missing you. I know you've been on the other side of the pond. Also, folks, I'll put another link up at the bottom of today's show. We are giving away a signed Atlanta Braves hat and signed baseball in a case for Ian Thompson, Game 3 winner of the World Series. He's from this area, Saratoga County, Shen High School, Clifton Park. He's from the area. We have a signed hat and a signed ball. The link will be at the bottom of the show notes. So please make sure June 6th, we're going to give that thing away. So we'll do our show with Doug Dreyer next week, talking about collectibles and what's hot right now. We're going to do that next week. And then that next Thursday at 7, I think it's, no, I'll take it back, at 10 o'clock, the drawing goes off. I'll get the winner, and then I'll let whoever know. I think we got 75 people already have put their name in the hat. So look, you still got a shot to win it. So make sure you click that link. Vinny, anything else you got for the folks that are coming up? Anything you coming up here?
If they ever want to reach out, like you said, man, reach out. I'm always willing to help. Seriously, anything you guys, ladies, anybody need anything, just holler at me, and that's it. All
right. I know that you said that was it, but the guest always gets the last word. So what's the last word, Vinny?
The last words, don't fuck it up, and let's go get that money.
All righty, folks. Be sure to push your stool in.
This has been an Earplug Podcast presentation, found on earplugpodcast.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, and wherever your favorite podcasts are found.